Welcome to The Explainer. The world of work is, well, it's going through a massive change. And today, we are diving deep into the one function that's right at the heart of it all, human resources.
Okay, so let's jump right in. We're kicking things off with this really powerful idea from Dave Ulrich, who's one of the biggest names in HR. And look, he's not just talking about a minor tweak here. He's signaling a complete reinvention of how business and HR need to operate in this new digital age. And that call for transformation? That's what we're all about today. Our whole journey today starts in Act 1, the revolution. And this is where we're going to get a handle on the kind of chaotic new world that, let's be honest, every single organization now finds itself in. This is the wake-up call, loud and clear.
So to really get this new world, we need some new words. So meet VUCA. Now this term actually came from the US military, but it perfectly captures our reality right now. All those old rules of 5-year plans and predictable markets, yeah, they're pretty much out the window. We're operating in an environment that is constantly changing, where it's hard to tell what's causing what. And the future is, well, anything but certain.
And you know, this isn't all just happening in a vacuum. We are right in the middle of what's being called the fourth industrial revolution. Now, the third one gave us computers and the internet, but this new era, it's a whole different ballgame. It's about blurring the lines between our physical and digital worlds. Think AI, the Internet of Things, everything being connected all the time. This isn't just about making companies more powerful. It's about empowering each of us as individuals, and that completely changes the game. And the engine that's driving all this change, it really boils down to one simple word: disruption. It's that force that can come in and just totally redefine an entire industry almost overnight.
And what's so fascinating when you look at this is the pattern, right? In every single one of these cases, the disruptor, think Uber or Airbnb, they didn't just make a slightly better taxi or a fancier hotel. No way. They created a totally new way of doing things, one that was simpler, easier to access, and usually a lot cheaper. They didn't just play the old game better, they invented a whole new game and left the old market leaders scratching their heads.
Okay, so if our world is now all about constant disruption, the big question becomes, how in the world do we survive it? And that's exactly what Act 2 is all about, your guide to adapting to this crazy new reality. Survival in a VUCA world, it really starts right here, in your head. It's all about making a shift from what's called a fixed mindset, this idea that your talents are set in stone, to a growth mindset. A growth mindset sees challenges as opportunities, learns from failure instead of fearing it, and actually gets inspired by the success of others. In a world that's always changing, being able to learn and adapt, that's your superpower.
But look, an individual mindset isn't quite enough. Organizations need a game plan, a roadmap, and this framework here provides one. The key thing to see is that it's not a one-and-done fix. It's a loop that you just keep running. You analyze what's going on, you decide on some changes, you test them out, you implement what works, and then, and this is the most important part, you review constantly so you're always learning. It's how you take all that chaos and turn it into a process you can actually manage.
And here's the big paradox of this whole digital revolution. The more we use technology to automate things, the more the human stuff actually starts to matter. I mean, think about it. As machines get better at the routine tasks, our uniquely human skills, creativity, critical thinking, empathy, they suddenly become the most valuable things we bring to the table. And you know what? The data totally backs this up. When do we actually prefer to use a digital tool? Well, it's for the straightforward routine stuff. I mean, when you're booking vacation time or tracking your hours, you just want it to be fast and accurate. A good app is perfect for that. But for those moments that really matter, like a conversation about your performance, getting coached by a great mentor, or working through a tough problem with your team, that's when we need a real human connection. Those are the moments that demand empathy, understanding, and a real conversation, things a machine just can't do. So, the real key here is to automate the transactional stuff to free up more time for the truly transformational stuff.
So, we get the revolution, we've got a survival guide. But how do we build organizations that don't just survive in this new world, but actually thrive in it? Well, that brings us to our final act, building organizations that are meant to last.
Okay, this right here is probably the biggest shift of all. Moving from seeing an organization as a machine to seeing it as a living system. The old machine model was all about control, rigid hierarchies, and efficiency. And that worked great in a predictable world. But in our chaotic VUCA world, we need organizations that act more like living things, flexible, resilient, and driven by a shared sense of purpose instead of just a rulebook. And let me be clear, this isn't just some nice, fuzzy metaphor. It is a fundamentally new operating model for doing business. It changes everything: how decisions get made, who has authority, and how we all work together.
So, what does a living system actually look like on the ground? The Teal organization model gives us a really cool picture. So instead of that classic top-down pyramid, you have teams that manage themselves. Instead of wearing a professional mask at work, people are encouraged to bring their whole authentic selves. And instead of a rigid 5-year plan, the organization's purpose sort of evolves on its own, always sensing and responding to what's happening around it.
And that idea of an evolving purpose, it doesn't just stop at the company's front door. The most forward-thinking, sustainable companies today understand they have a role to play in the wider world.
This is a really profound idea. True sustainability isn't just about the bottom line anymore. It's about creating value for all of society. It's this recognition that you can't have a truly healthy company if it exists in an unhealthy world.
So, for example, a sustainable company might actively connect its mission to something like the UN's goal of providing quality education. And why would they do that? Well, because a well-educated society creates a workforce that's ready for the future, which is exactly what you need for innovation and growth. It's a win-win. It creates value for both the company and for society.
And that really brings us to the single biggest takeaway from this entire journey. The digital revolution, the shift to a growth mindset, creating these living organizations, it all comes down to one thing: people. You simply cannot transform a company without transforming the skills, the mindsets, and the experiences of the people inside it.
Which leaves us with one last kind of provocative question. We know that every single organization is on this transformation journey, whether they're leading the charge or being dragged along. The real question is, are you? Thanks for joining us on The Explainer.